Good day once again. My name is 𝐻𝐸-𝐤𝐞𝐫, founder of MB Consults, a platform where it is our primary objective to do better for aspiring professionals, especially those that may want to pivot into tech, or perhaps those that are in tech and are looking for strategies to advance their career. My commitment to the community is to come out here at least on a fortnightly basis to contribute to the advancement of people's career, in terms of, be it from the outset where you are even thinking of getting clarity on what you want to do. Once you're able to do that, then we can even start talking about, okay, that pivotal point that actually, skyrockets your career. That's your resume, right? And, I often see and I realize that one's resume is actually that window into actually getting your career to get that leap. But more often than not, most of us have, the wrong mindset about our resumes. And we go all the way even up until when you get a job offer. And here at MB Consult, we are here to support you all the way. So this is part of my commitment. And, in conjunction with my team members, I have seasoned professionals that are working with me that co-mentor alongside with me at MB Consult. And I'm grateful. Some of them are here, some are not. But together, it is our commitment to see the community built up for people to begin to achieve their career aspirations. So for today, the topic we have at hand before us is breaking into tech without a tech degree. Now, I must confess here that this is something maybe years past, I wouldn't have expected myself to actually be talking on a topic like this, because I'm like a diehard fan for tech. But again, one of the key hallmarks for actually growing or having that growth mindset is adaptability. So I'm also adapting now, even though I've spent like about 2.5 decades in tech. Yeah, you heard me right, 2.5 decades. I'm now beginning to realize that you don't have to have started off in tech to make great achievements in tech. Let me repeat that. You don't have to have started out your career in tech for you to make great strides in tech. Yeah, that's me saying it. It's because the world, the landscape is fast evolving, it's fast changing, and we need to adapt with the times. So that's why, like I said, if it was just left to me in my arrogance, I don't think I'll be speaking on a topic like this, because for me, it looks like an oxymoron, right? But here we are, right? In the spirit of, trending with the times, with the spirit of being able to be of great service to the community, I've decided I will take this topic, because I keep getting people calling me and asking me, hey, 𝐻𝐸-𝐤𝐞𝐫, I don't know exactly what to do. Everybody is saying business analysis. Everybody is saying QA. Everybody is saying data analysis. Everybody is saying project management. People are wanting to go write certifications. And I'm like, why? What do you want? Right? So I'm hoping that in the course of this session, we'll be able to demystify and deconstruct some of those things, and hopefully to be of value to those of you that are here. So thank you once again for joining, and I'm hoping that this will be a valuable use of your time. So let's get going. So what is the big picture here, right? We're talking about tech. What's the big picture? Why has tech become more accessible than ever? So let's make this interactive. And there's no right or wrong answer. So I'm sure we all have our different definitions of what tech is, right? And again, there's no right or wrong. But let's assume that we have a definition for tech, whatever that is. I'm saying that tech has since become more accessible than ever. What does that mean to you? So I'm asking. I'm saying tech has become more accessible than ever. What does that mean to you? Any takers? Hello? If you are raising up your hand, please just unmute and speak. I may not be able to see your hand up. No one? Olu, thanks for joining. It's been a while.
Hello, Mentor Mike. Hello, everyone.
How are you?
I'm
You
doing
just
well. How
made
are
my
you too?
weekend. I'm fine. I thought you forgot about me completely.
No, I won't, right?
I know, I know.
All
So,
right.
so I'm going to put you on the spot now. So I'm saying that tech has become more accessible than ever. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. Well, that means that there's just been this new, based on like evolution of tech. At this point in time of our lives, it is more accessible than ever, especially because of the turnaround during COVID. Everybody realized that, well, it looks like we have to do things remotely as opposed to being present for most things. So with that, with COVID coming in, that's my opinion. It made more people embrace tech, and I think there are just more innovations around tech right now than ever because of that. That's my take.
So if I hear you correctly, and thank you very much, Olu. So you are looking at it from what I would call the dividends of COVID, right?
Right, exactly. Yes, it just opened our eyes more to the possibilities. And maybe it was there right from time that we didn't realize, but then there was just that awareness that we have to do things and use tech for,
To
for the
facilitate,
things we
right?
do. Yes, yes.
Interesting. Thank you for that perspective. Anyone else? Again, I may not be able to see your hand, so just unmute and speak. Anyone else? One, would you agree that tech has become more accessible than ever? And if so, what's your take on that? Interesting. Okay, let's keep going. Just give me a sec here. Now, so thank you, Olu, for that perspective, because I wasn't even thinking upon it along those lines. But I definitely can corroborate what you're saying in the sense that COVID made the world realize that we needed to figure out a way to work without having to go into an office building to turn on a computer hardware. So like I do usually say, and a quote from a friend of mine, that most Fortune 5, even Fortune 500 companies were caught napping when COVID-19 hit. Because more often than not, most of them had what I would call on-prem servers hosting most of their day-to-day applications. And it needed somebody to literally go into an office building and switch a button to turn it on, so that everyone that was connected or hooked up to that application could actually utilize it. And those organizations, some of them had to pay dearly for it, because what that meant was that they needed to now start looking at how they could go to cloud technology, which would give accessibility to those same applications via the internet. So not all organizations was prepared for that when COVID hit, and the organizations that were actually, they had that huge advantage. And let's bring it home. A number of churches had to shut down. I'm sorry I'm using that example. They had to shut down completely, but very quickly, churches began to realize that they could be doing live streaming. But not most of them could easily just switch, right? Because it's one thing for you to be doing live streaming from your phone. It's another thing for you to be doing it from a corporate standpoint, right? And so that's just an example that I'm sure we can all relate to, until some organizations or, congregations were able to figure that out. They literally were also on shutdown, right? But again, for me, this is the way I look at it, that tech has become more accessible than ever. Tech is no longer, and I wanted something very simple, right? When people hear tech, what comes to mind? So that's not a question. People just think about programming. Do I have a witness? When you hear tech, you just think about coding. Does that make sense? Can I get an affirmation? I don't need you to talk. You can just do a thumbs up, whatever. When you hear tech, you just think programming. When you hear tech, you think coding, and you're just like scared. I don't want to do tech, right? You hear software developer. No, I don't want to do tech. You start hearing things like Java, Python, R. You just feel like that's all tech is about. And that's why people just run away. They don't even want to touch it, right? Apart from the euphoria of people saying, oh, I'm in tech. It's kind of funky for you to say, oh, I'm in tech. It's like when I introduce myself and I tell somebody I've been in tech for over 2.5 decades. They're like, ooh, where are you from? And I'm like, no, just take it easy. I don't even code. And I've been in tech for 2.5 decades. Right? So tech is no longer just for coders or for those with computer science degrees. Let that sink for a minute. The digital economy, right, needs other professions to facilitate the adoption of tech. Right? There are so many professions now that you don't necessarily need to have started off in tech for you to thrive in them. And we're going to bring it home. How much of tech do you need to be a project coordinator? Again, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying throw tech away, but I'm just saying that there are inroads into tech without you having to have been born in tech or bred in tech or to have been bathed in tech. That's what we are saying. Roles like business analysis. Yes, you need tech, but you don't need tech to get in. That's what I'm saying. Roles like QA, quality assurance, software testing. You don't necessarily need tech to get in. Will tech help? Absolutely. But it's not a criteria to get in. Even when you start talking about adoption of technology, there are certain platforms that has a lower learning steep. And in terms of tech products, like software products, I've worked with multiple of them. And in my experience, one like Salesforce has a very low learning curve for you to adopt and thereby get into tech. And I was telling somebody yesterday, I've worked with multiple technologies. And when I encountered Salesforce, the first thing I said to myself was that, wow, I found something simpler than Microsoft. You guys would understand that when it comes to user friendliness, that's one thing Microsoft is known for, as against Apple or Mac, right? That for me, I don't use I've not even used a Mac laptop before. And I don't think I plan to, except my work enforces it, right? But when you say Microsoft, it's just synonymous to user friendliness. And then when I encountered Salesforce, for example, I was on a Microsoft CRM project at work. And I was like, wow, how come I didn't know Salesforce years ago? Right? But that's another kettle of fish. But I realized that the learning steep to adopt a technology like Salesforce was relatively lower than a lot. Think about SAP success factors. I was talking to a recruiter recently, and I was telling the recruiter that, do you know that in using Salesforce success factors, there is capability for you to use combination of keypad strokes to do stuff in SAP success factors. That's in things like Control F6 or Control Shift F2. Yes, those are still things that are in SAP legacy applications, right? And then think about you going into like ServiceNow, you going into Oracle, right? These are frontliner cloud applications. But Salesforce has a lower learning curve. And that's what we are saying, as in tech has become accessible. Salesforce, again, I'm not here to market Salesforce, but Salesforce was one of those Fortune 500 companies within tech that democratized cloud technology. That's what we are saying. It's like when we say ChatGPT, OpenAI, from OpenAI, democratized AI. Before ChatGPT came along, AI has always been. I was taught AI in school about 25 years ago. I had a lecturer that taught us artificial intelligence, but at the time, it didn't make sense to us. And AI has always continued to be until OpenAI in 2022 came up with ChatGPT. It was just the democratization of AI. For once, we all now had an inroad into the world of AI without having to cross a lot of hoops of technical stuff. So wherever you are coming from, I'm here to tell you that you don't necessarily need to have been born, bred, bathed in tech for you to thrive in tech. You have a unique background, regardless where you're coming from. You have transferable skills, regardless where you're coming from. Now, why has tech become more accessible than ever? Global tech talent shortage. It is projected that there will be about 85 million jobs on field, tech jobs, by the year 2030. Think about that for a minute. Just think about that for a minute. That's 1 in 1,000 people. The world right now is a little above 8 billion. So 85 million is like 1 in 1,000. So that means to say that there is 1,000 people that can literally be mapped to one job. That's not a lot. Because even today on LinkedIn, we're already having like 500 people applying for one role. So what that means is that that's going to continue. There will always be jobs, right? What do we mean by this global tech talent shortage? What do we mean by it? This shortage will span across various sectors, including financial services, healthcare, tech itself. For example, financial services sector alone will face a deficit of 10.7 million workers by the year 2030. Yeah, you heard me right. These jobs will be in tech, but they don't necessarily need to be filled by somebody that started off in tech, right? And this gap presents a unique opportunity for individuals from non-tech backgrounds to transition into these tech roles. That's what we are saying. Now, there's also the concept of no code, low code. Now, you are going to ask me, Michael, what do you mean by this? I thought you said there's no coding. Yes, there may be no coding, but there could also be what we call low coding. So there are 3 tiers when you talk about software development. The first tier is, can I do it with no code? Yes, there's a lot of software development that you can do with no code. Can I do it with what we call low code? Low code means that, again, if I want to use Salesforce technology, we're talking about declarative programming, which means to say that if you can say 1 + 1 = 2, and you can do drag and drop on a screen, that's low code. Let me blow your mind. 7, 8-year-old kids are writing Python code. Think about that for a minute. I'm giving you that information firsthand. That's the age we are in. And I'm not saying you need to dive in and start writing code. But there's no code tools that you can use for software development. There's, as in no code, then there's low code, which means you just need to understand logic. Like logical operators, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, arithmetic operators. If you can understand that, you can get away with low code. Then there is now code, which is not what we are talking about here today, because nobody wants to code, right? But what there was Mark Zuckerberg came out with a theory recently that in years to come, in less than about 5 to 7 years, that about 60% of coding is going to be entirely done by AI. Now, regardless what anybody is saying, I believe that we can't do without the traditional software developer. Somebody needs to train AI to write code. So get that for a minute. So we still need coders, and that's not the issue here. But what we are saying is that even in the world of software development, there is an appetite to reduce the entry criteria. And that appetite is increasing by the day. There's actually a target on them to allow people to develop software, to develop application with low code, and if possible, with no code, right? And that's where we are headed. And that's what we are talking about. Now, thirdly, demand for diverse skill sets, not just coding. Tech is not all just about coding. That's not what tech is all about. The tech industry now values a wide range of skills beyond traditional coding. And like I said earlier, When people come to me, I say a lot of people come to me, oh, I want to be a project manager. I want to get into project management. I want to write PMP certification. And I ask the question, have you actually been part of a project in a projectized environment? It's just a question. I'm not even asking your role. Have you been part of a project? And then they tell me no. And I say, so how are you even going to be speaking at the interview table when you are applying for a project manager role? How? Okay, I asked you the first question in project management 101. What are the 3 key pillars of project management? A protege came to me about 2 years ago, applying for a project manager role. And that was the first question I asked. Philip was on that call. And I said, what are the 3 key pillars of project management? And the candidate froze. And I was like, what are we doing here? And then I had to, after, getting ourselves a bit more acquainted and all of that, I now advised her. I said, I'm not saying you can't function in the role, but there is a process. You need to go from A to B, not A to Z. And I said, I would advise that why don't you target a project coordinator role? Because she was actually in like a project admin role at the time in her place of work. And I said, why don't you target a project coordinator role while you are learning and undertaking, what is expected of a project manager? And I dare to say, you will hardly, because there's no 100%, you will hardly be hired as a project manager if you've not been a project manager in a previous engagement. You would hardly. I tell people that project manager is that one role that you're not going to lean on anybody from day zero. There's nobody to lean on. There's nothing like I'll be shadowing. No. You are the project manager. Everybody looks up to you. So that's the difference. So nobody is going to hire a project manager who is a rookie. Nobody does that. But what I'm just saying is that you don't need so much of tech as a project coordinator. A project coordinator is that person that does all the dirty job of the project manager. I was chatting with my PM at work just yesterday. He was lamenting that he doesn't have a project admin, that he's getting frustrated, that some other project managers in the organizations do have a project admin. Now, I'm the test lead on the project. And I said, I can be your admin. And he said, oh, no, Mike, you have way too more important things to do. I said, no, you're my friend. I consider you a mentor. If there's anything where I can help you, I would help you, right? Things like business analysis, data analysis. You don't need to have started in tech to begin to chart a career in data. And I can tell you this for free. Anybody that is not thinking about data in 21st century tech evolution, I'm sorry, you are not on top of your game. I was talking to a protege again last night who was telling me that in her quest for job applications, she's beginning to now realize that the use, the manipulation, and the massaging, understanding of data tools is becoming so prevalent that you literally find it almost on every job description. And I said, yes, I can corroborate that. I realized that when I did my career needs analysis earlier in the year, and the outcome of that career analysis for me is that I needed to take data seriously. So I enrolled into a Power BI data course. That's me. I'm doing what I need to do, right? For example, the BA bridges the gap between business needs and technical solution. You don't necessarily, again, don't get me wrong. You don't have to be a tech guru to be a good BA. Now, would you be a better BA understanding tech? Absolutely, yes. But more importantly, you need strong analytical and communication skills rather than coding expertise. So you need to look at where you are or where you are coming from. What this shift means is that you can literally excel in what I will call those pseudo tech roles within areas like finance, marketing, operations that spans all over tech. Let's keep going. Now, if you have questions, please unmute and just call my attention. Now, the concept of remote work, don't forget, we're talking about accessibility. Just like what Olu was saying, that due to COVID, now we can access technology literally from wherever you are. When we say that the world is a global village, it is not just something we look up to. It is something that is here right now. The world has since become a global village. It doesn't matter where you are dialing into this call from. What matters is that you were able to get on this call. And that is the utilization of technology. So the concept of remote work is technically equal to global opportunities. Now, when COVID hit, just like again what Olu was alluding to, the rise of remote work became a thing. Even though, to be honest, right now, a lot of organizations are rescinding that approach, and a lot of them are now, at best, accommodating a hybrid model. Some of them have become so traditional that they are now insisting everybody needs to come back to the office, right? And that's okay. But we are still saying that there are a lot of, especially tech startups, that don't even have the funds or the budget to invest in real estate. I'm talking about brick and mortar real estate. So there's no need for an office. People are doing office co-locations. Maybe in a building, you just rent a room, and that's all you need. But technically, in this day and age, you can literally start up an organization without having to leave the comfort of your house. Even in terms of the tech that you need, there's software as a service. There's platform as a service. There's infrastructure as a service. There's literally anything as a service right now. So you can literally build and set up a tech company without leaving the comfort of your home, right? You can get companies like AWS, GCP, Google Cloud Platform, to help you set up your infrastructure. Small, medium-sized enterprises are able to work. Google Workspace is cloud technology. And you don't need to have been, again, we have been born, bathed, or bred in tech for you to even get jump-started. That's what we are saying. Remote work has since become the norm. This flexibility not only broadens career prospects, but it also fosters a more inclusive and diverse tech industry. Now, common myths debunked. No tech degree? Yes, no problem. I'll quickly add, tech degree, all the better. But no tech degree should not be your barrier. That's what we are saying. So what are the common myths that we can debunk? And if any of this speaks to you and you want to share with us, please, I'm all ears. I believe we can learn one or two from you. You need to learn to code to be able to work in tech. Is that absolutely true? Can I get, let's even talk about that for a minute. So let's do it this way. Now I'm going to look at the people on the call. How many of us are in tech here? So raise your hand, as in use the e-hand feature. Raise your hand if you are in tech, in whatever shape or form you are in tech. Raise your hand. Hello, I just said raise your hand, please. Okay. I still know a few more. Can we raise our hands if you believe you are in tech? Hello. Okay. Any more? So I see 3 hands. Any more? Let's make this interactive, please. If you are in tech, Noye, thumbs up doesn't count. Olu, I believe you are in tech, right? So okay, good. Now, so we have how many hands raised? 5. Okay, we are experimenting. Now, out of these 5, so keep raising up your hand. 5 of you. Thank you. Now, if you code, put down your hand. Are we all seeing? Okay, so who put down his or her hand? So that was, who did I miss? Okay, Favor. Okay, so now, are we seeing what I'm saying? The people that claim to be in tech, they are not coding. Are we making sense here? Can I hear somebody's voice? Hello? Anybody?
Yes,
any of you raising up your hand? Right? So it's a myth. People feel like, oh, for me to be in tech, I need to code. And here it is. I mean, if people like John, who has been in Microsoft Dynamics 365 F&O for over a decade, is not coding, then the world is a good place. Right? So that's what we are saying. You can put down your hands and thank you. So you don't have to code to work in tech. 2, only young people or career starters can break into tech. Because somebody will come to me and say, I think it's just way too late. I have experience in customer service, marketing, banking operations, whatever. I don't think I can break into tech. People feel like breaking into tech is a matter of necessity rather than a matter of choice. Anyone can break into tech at any point in time. You just need to do what you need to do, right? And I keep hearing all these myths all the time, right? And even from some of the clients that we have at MB Consult, people are always like either afraid to pivot and they just start freaking out. But the first thing I tell people is that, no, you don't need to know how to code. And if you want, you can literally learn how to code if you want. I've seen people that came from as far as studying languages to become Salesforce developers, where they have to code. I'm talking about programmatic programming now. So there's literally nothing you cannot learn if you truly put your heart to it. But what I'm saying is that your fear of coding or thinking, oh, I'm too old to get into this, it's a myth, and we are debunking it. Now, if you disagree, or if you want to shed more light on it as you agree, please let us know. Just, unmute and speak. In today's world, we use tools like Microsoft Excel. Now, would you really tell me that, oh, you are working in a decent organization, wouldn't you be using Microsoft Office? And as part of you using Microsoft Office, most likely you are using Excel. Do you know that I've seen Excel being used to an extent where I call it abuse of Excel, especially payroll managers that, again, they never knew coding, but they are able to massage and utilize Excel to the extent where it feels like they are literally coding. By the time you start going into macros, pivot tables, VLOOKUPs, you are literally coding, but it's, again, no code, low code. You are using logic. That's what we are saying. You don't need to write the code, but the code is being written for you. But you are bringing your own intelligence because you need to tell the system or the application what you need it to do. That is intelligence. That is logic. That's what you need to bring when you are coming into tech. Right? Again, when I talked about project coordinator roles, project admin roles, scheduler, you are bringing your ability to organize people and resources. You are bringing your leadership skills rather than coding. I was talking to a friend, a professional friend yesterday. He's a senior PM in an utilities company. And he was telling me that one of the ways that he actually gained credence at his work is because he was able to partake in testing as part of his at work. He's a PM, he doesn't have to test. But he said he's doing it for himself because he wants to embed himself into the organization. And he said people came to him and tell him that he's the first PM that they've seen to embed himself into the testing phase of the project, as in his fingers on the keyboard. So it's all about what you choose to do, right? Let's keep going. Do you need a computer science degree to be in tech? Do you? That's a rhetorical statement. A computer science degree is not a mandatory requirement for many tech roles. Yes, there are times I see it. They will say bachelor's in computer science or whatever. But I dare to say, I've been in Canada now for 9 years. Nobody has ever asked me to bring my bachelor's degree certificate or my master's degree certificate. Nobody. Even if you are lying, most likely they will just take your word for it. Nobody is checking. It is much more what is the intelligence that you are bringing to the table. Companies are increasingly valuing practical skills and experience over formal education. Think about that for a minute. If I bring examples here, I don't want to bring them here out of context. But I can tell you that most of the pioneers and the top men in top software products on a global scale, most of them dropped out of school. But don't be deceived, and that's why I don't want this to be out of context. Don't be deceived that they went to school, but they soon realized that going to school is not necessarily what would make you advance, progress, or become a global leader in tech. Again, I'm an advocate of learning, may not necessarily be an advocate of the four walls of a classroom. So hear me well. I'm not saying don't go to school. I will never say that. But I'm just saying that going to school is not enough. Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard to start Microsoft. Steve Jobs left Reed College to co-found Apple. Now, don't forget, they went to school. And we are talking about schools that are like A-rated. So when you're saying Harvard, everybody knows Harvard, right? So for you to even get into Harvard, you need to be on top of your game, right? So we're not saying that, oh, these guys just decided not to go to school. No. But what we are saying is that it's way more than going to school. Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of Harvard as well to focus on Facebook. Larry Ellison, owner of Oracle, left college to build Oracle. And we can go on and go on. But I'm not saying you should leave school. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that those of us that have that computer science degree, we might have had a head start, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have no stake in the game, or that you can't progress, or that you can't do well even in that tech space. That's what I am saying. There are leaders to look up to. There are mentors to look up to. There are people in the community to look up to. The question is, what do you want to do for yourself? So it all comes back to you as an individual. Myth number 4, you need years of experience to get started. I know this can be debatable, right? This can be debatable. Entry-level positions in tech are designed for individuals with no experience. But yes, I know, right? Who is going to hire someone with no experience? That's the irony. When there are so many people out there with experience, I get it. This is where things like internships can be of help. Apprenticeship can be of help. There are times I've canceled my proteges to take junior roles. So if you tell me you're looking for a BA role, you're looking for a BA role, and you're not finding, and you don't even have a domain knowledge of any product, software, Microsoft, Oracle, Salesforce, ADP, UKG, whatever, then I'll say, have you thought about looking for a junior BA role for starters, or a junior PM role for starters? And then you can use that to get your feet wet and then climb up the ladder. I know it's easier said than done, but it's part of strategy, so that you are competing at a lower level, not necessarily because you cannot compete at a higher level, right? And roles like testers, even though today, again, because I don't want to be oblivious of the obvious, today, a lot of testing roles are requiring you to know automation testing, which means the ability to write code. I get it. But again, it's not necessarily a hardline barrier for you to get in. You just need to at least start somewhere and endeavor to work your way up the ladder. Okay? Next, pathways into tech. Career options you can target without a computer science degree. So let's talk. What would you consider pathways into tech? Anyone? Let me look at the attendance. Anyone, what would you consider pathways into tech? What kind of roles? based on everything we have said so far? Hello?
I think maybe BA roles or data analysis.
Wow.
Those
Okay, it's good to
soft.
have you here.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. Yeah. BA roles, yeah. Seems like you have access to my slide deck. I don't okay. Not very comfortable with that. Anyway, just kidding. So BA roles, data, why do you say so though?
I think stemming from what you said, it's obvious that those are like, they are not techie, out of lack of better word, like coding hardcore skills that, these are like low hanging fruits. Like for a BA, you need interpersonal skills, you need organizational skills, communication skills. And if you can bring all those together, I think that can open the door into the real core IT if you want to go dive deeper. You mentioned data analysis. Data is numbers, is data, like just tables. If you have an inkling into it and you want to broaden and go into IT, then you can come in through that, like a data science. I think we did that session on data already. And that guy, he said a lot of things that many times we overthink these things. And all you just need is to get your feet wet, honestly, and you can start swimming down the line.
Absolutely. And thank you for that contribution. They're okay. No, I agree with you completely. Anyone else? Okay.
Product owner.
Thank you. That's a funky one, right?
Yeah.
Product owner. But what does a product owner do, Philip?
Well, I'll say for every tech service you want to render or you want to pass or they want to implement, it will be the product comes in from that tech's perspective. So it's either you be the one in charge to deliver such. So your basic role is to manage that deliverable and release it as a product from that end.
Exactly, right. Right. There's a lot of, and thank you for that, Philip, because I wasn't even thinking about that. There's a lot of interworkings between the role of a BA and a product owner. It's just that for products, there's specialization, right? There's a particular product, right? And the product owner is usually the advocate of the customer or of the business, right? And yeah, that's something that is prevalent in an agile environment. Most of us talk about agile, right? In an agile environment, you have a product owner as part of the Scrum team, right? Thank you, Philip, for bringing that up. Yeah. Okay. Now, okay, that's why I said I think you have a sneak peek into my slide deck. So, business analysts bridges the gap between business needs and detectives, right? That's what primarily a BA does. And just like Philip alluded to, a product owner does something similar. A product owner is the advocate of the business on the Scrum team in an agile environment. That's the role of a product owner in a very simplified fashion. Now, I brought this in here, Salesforce admin, because I just wanted to bring at least one tech product so that, because people keep asking me, what training can I go and do? What? Now, again, I'm not advocating for Salesforce as a company, no, but I'm just saying in my experience, right? Because if you were thinking of, for example, going to learn ServiceNow, going to learn Microsoft products, even though, yeah, it also has supposedly a low learning curve as well, or you want to go into Oracle landscape, UKG, right? There are so many, ADP, there are so many. But I'm putting Salesforce here because I've seen that, number one, Salesforce is a market leader within the CRM space. That's number one. It has also a low learning curve for you to adopt and onboard yourself, acquire the knowledge, and do something with it, right? And that's why I brought it here. And it's being used by over 150,000 companies on a global scale. So that's what that is doing there. You don't necessarily need a tech degree to do that. Now, project coordinator, I was very careful here not to say project manager, and I'm very, very intentional about that. I always like people that want to aspire to be project managers, especially if you've not had the opportunity to work, one, in a project-based work environment, two, where you've actually either shadowed a project manager or you've actually been a project manager yourself. Now, if you are just pivoting into tech, most likely you've not done any of those. And that's why I'm always hinging on the project coordinator role. Now, the role of the Scrum Master also, to be honest with you, at times I'm wondering what exactly is a Scrum Master doing, with all due respect. Yes, what is the core role of a Scrum Master? To remove impediments from the Scrum team in order to deliver on their deliverable. That's the core responsibility of a Scrum team. Everything the Scrum Master, everything the Scrum Master does is hinged on that core KPI. Now, do you need to know how to code to do what I just said? If you need somebody to code as the Scrum Master, you ask for a developer. Nobody expects you to code, right? And this is huge in the US. Absolutely huge, the role of a Scrum Master. In Canada, maybe not as huge. A lot of organizations are literally like expecting Scrum Masters to have additional skill sets, like skill sets to be able to double as a BA, skill sets to be able to even double as a PM, right? Or skill set to double as a PO, product owner. Those are the expectations I've seen across the Canadian landscape. But in the US, it's still very huge. I don't know why, right? Now, QA testing, software testing, there will always be the need for testers, whether manual or automation. And I do tell people, I've been in testing for over a decade and a half. No matter how much you hype automated testing, somebody still needs to test it manually for you to automate that process. So you're not going to get rid of the manual testing, no matter what you do. You can reduce them, yes, I agree, but you are not going to get rid of them completely, right? So these are areas that, or pathways, in my opinion. Then, as Aderonke said, data analysts. How proficient are you in Excel? Like I said earlier, it will amaze you what some people can do with Excel. Even me, I'm amazed. When you see certain dashboard and somebody tells you it was done in Excel, I'm like, are you for real? And they say yes. Then Power BI, like I said, I'm on a Power BI training right now. That's part of the outcome of my own career's needs analysis. I've learned SQL in the past. I've used it in my, in my former roles in my career. So, but you can, these are things you can pick up, self-learn, self-paced, for you to now be able to say, oh, by the way, I have this skill set. Nobody's going to teach you SQL in school, right? Who is going to be teaching you Excel in school? But these are skills that are required in the workplace. So where are you going to learn them? You have to figure out how to learn them. But you don't necessarily have to have a tech degree to be able to acquire this knowledge. Olu, please.
Yes, I was just gonna add that I realized that one could pay attention to job roles that say whatever analyst, functional analyst,
Process
operational
analyst.
analyst. Yes.
Yeah.
This breaking into tech, sometimes you find out that some job titles that are hardly mentioned are actually kind of their tech too. And it would be just great to pay attention to them because things are happening there. That was what I wanted to add.
Thank you very much, Olu. And I particularly like the way you said analyst. And I think we can take something away from that. Like if we go to, let's see whether we can. Okay, Philip, please go ahead while I. Philip,
Yes, just to
yeah,
follow the trend or the top trend
yeah,
of audio. Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you a good example. So I know a lot of you have heard of what we call technical writers, right? Some people are just good. So you may call it BA, but these people are just technical writers. They are in the tech industry. They're not just BA, but write content because they understand the tech. So they may not know how to do the coding, whatever, but you are a good writer. Maybe you studied literature, maybe you studied English. All you need to do is understand the technology jargons, able to write, do research. Trust me, that market, you can create a niche for yourself. Um, Even when you're not working, imagine you just taking Salesforce up and you're good at writing and you just write on LinkedIn about Salesforce and start tagging one or two companies. You will see even the people who are more savvy, who call themselves developer, maybe in Microsoft Dynamics, maybe in SAP, you just pick a niche for yourself. Maybe you just want to be talking about Microsoft Dynamics on health. Maybe I'm a medical doctor, maybe I'm a nurse, but I'm good at writing. Why not combine the nursing in the health sector? Why not combine the writing ability? Pick that technology, how it works. You just have the basic knowledge and you start writing. You go to the website, and the beauty about all these business solutions that they have tons of materials that you can be a writer and you start writing. So that's just a good example of me saying that people will just say technical writers, and lo and behold, they are good and they are technical writers. They can write and they can create things out of the blues, and you'll be surprised that is this person, but people will just follow them. And you may feel that they are not tech people, they say they're writer. No, they're in the tech field, they're in that tech space. It's like saying a UI UX design person. If you say a UI UX design person, just a UI UX person, but it's an element across that side of things. So, and a good example, Michael, you mentioned is being a project coordinator. You can be a project coordinator right from maybe in a real estate, right? But someday you bring that skill of coordinator, right? To say, okay, I understand the jargon of being managing a project to the tech space. So the tech space on its own is an industry. But rather than we saying that, oh, you must be a developer before you are in that space, you also have to understand. So the question at the end of the day, or the takeaway for me, is I always ask people, what's your strength? Then think very well, right? And see how you can carve that niche for yourself. Go to the marketplace, be it on LinkedIn, be it on Instagram. Unfortunately, I'm not good at being out there, but I always feel that if I was good, I create a niche for myself, and I will have a whole lot of followers because people want more information. So thanks, Michael. That's
absolutely on point, Philip. And I wanted to actually, are you seeing my screen, LinkedIn? Is that what you're seeing? Hello?
Seeing the screen.
Are you seeing LinkedIn?
Yes.
Okay, good. So before I go back to what I was looking for, so just to buttress again, I don't know, I'm just doing this on the fly, right? So when Philip says technical writer, what does the technical writer do? So this is a law firm, right? So technical writer. So let's see. Let's just, let's validate what he's saying. So position overview. So it's currently expanding and looking to recruit a technical writer in Edmonton. In this role, you'll be responsible for producing UI copy. UI is user interface copy, and how to documentation. Are you seeing that? That empowers non-technical. They don't want anything technical. To empower non-technical users to make effective use of our internal content management system. Content management system is as good as a library where you can go in and look for content, right? But it's electronic, digital. A secondary responsibility will be creating interactive web products and services that are helpful, easy to understand, and a pleasure to use, right? What is responsible? Write and edit clear, plain language user interface copy, heading, label, but you need to have that skill of writing. And if you are doing this for a software company, then you are literally in tech. So that's what we mean by the skills. Is the skills. Focus on the skills, on acquiring the skills. Not literally just focusing on tech. Tech is just a bubble. But you need to have the skills to even bring in to tech. And then you can now go in, if you now want to go all the way in to start writing Python, R programming, good for you. But you don't need all of that to get into tech. That's what we are saying here. So this is a law firm. So what would they need in, let's look for another industry. That's law. Let's try to look at something.
Before you even leave that part, if you go
Yeah.
to the knowledge and skill
Skills.
requirements,
Okay.
you will see that those language they use in tech, the UX, the UI,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you even have the user experience. I think at the end of the day, whatever we are building as a tech person, if the user experience is not relevant, it becomes a problem. And you'll be
Correct.
surprised, Michael, if you check change management is a work on its own. People say, oh, we want someone who can be a change management manager or staff, whatever. They need someone who understands that phase of the transition so that people can get to use that business or the solution. One thing is for a technical guy who is a developer or whatever to build. And if the people say they are not interested to change, they need somebody to convince them. It might be the person. And you'll still be in that space. So it's a whole lineup of a team that drives the tech. Just adding to that,
Exactly.
Michael.
No, absolutely. Because and thank you again for me. Because what I wanted to do was to use the word analysts based on what Olu said. I think the word analyst is one way you can literally look to get an inroad into tech. Because when any role ends up being an analyst role, it just primarily means that beyond maybe if you need a specialized tech skill, but primarily it's your ability to analyze, analytical thinking, logic, write, present. That's what an analyst role at the core, that's what it is. It's like you are bringing your brain and you're going to talk to somebody, and hopefully whatever you get from that person, you can make something good or better out of it. That's the role of an analyst. Now, anything can now be to the left of the word analyst. So that, but the first thing and that was what I was trying to do here, that when you type analyst, a lot of things come up and it's like across the entire spectrum. Analysts can come from anywhere. There are financial analysts, HR system. Are you telling me HR system you have to code how to manage human personnel? What are you coding? You can go into it. Yes, analytics. That's where, again, data analysts comes from. But nobody's expecting you to code. So what are your responsibilities? Act as a subject matter expert for HR system. Now, in this case, they need you to understand. I talked about UKG, WFM is workforce management. These are HR. So this is HR, right? So they need you to understand HR applications. I get it. But at the end of the day, you can go to any other one. Analyst. What really is the work of an analyst? Again, let's go investigate and identify strategies. Define business requirement. Nobody's asking you to code. Source business and market data. Nobody's asking you to code. This will include supporting or directly leading process analysis, gap analysis. Nobody's asking you to code. So if, for example, you are new into tech and you are like, again, you have to do your due diligence. There's no shortcut. I'm just giving it to you for free. Go and start researching any role that ends up being an analyst role. More often than not, nobody will be expecting you to code. But again, you may require some additional skill sets. How do you do a process gap analysis? You can go and learn it. Go on YouTube. Go anywhere you need to go. But don't freak out. And that's the whole essence of this webinar. Don't freak out thinking, oh, I can't make it in tech because I don't know how to code. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Now, where were we? So your transition roadmap from where you are right now to where you want to be. Okay. What does that look like? And I'm going to share this because this is the exact roadmap that we use here at MB Consult in our 90-day mentorship program, where we work with clients to clarify their goals, build strategic roadmaps. You know, in terms of resume, in terms of interviews, in terms of landing the job. It's one thing to get the job, it's another thing to keep the job, right? Positioning yourself, and how do you keep momentum? One, assess your transferable skills. What do I mean by assess? One, you need to identify them. The first step in transitioning into tech is to assess your transferable skills. Skills you have gained from previous roles, current roles that can be applied to tech positions. For example, a lot of us, when we come into Canada, more often than not, the first kind of job we do is a customer service role, because it's more or less a transitional job, if you permit me to call it that. Most of us don't take away learnings from those roles. But do you know that the experience you gain in a customer service role, experiences like strong communication, problem-solving skills, they are very valuable in roles like business analyst, project coordinator, and other similar roles that has to do with people management. So who says that that so-called transitional job that you thought you were just doing just to pay the bills as a customer service rep, that you were even doing it and you were angry while you're at it, and instead of you to learn at it, you decided not to learn, and then you now get onto a job that you have aspired to be in, and you now realize that, oh my goodness, if only I had taken the time to learn some of those skills, right? Those are transferable skills that can come in very handy. Now, when we go back to the previous slide and you look at those roles, right? We talked about the analyst role, we talked about project coordinator, scrum master, we talked about data analyst and all of that. Pick one of them, because most likely we've either directly or indirectly, overtly or covertly, we might have actually presented ourselves or done jobs in those roles, but not maybe having those job titles. Like they always say, when you go to any business analyst training, they always say that even the way you go through your day is a business analyst job description. Do you just wake up when you wake up? I'm sure everybody has a plan. I need to be awake at 6, or I need to be awake at 7. That's where your business analyst skills, time management, that's where it starts. And then when you wake up, you need to know that you need to get to work in the next 1 hour. Do you just go back to sleep and you feel like you still get to work in 1 hour? And then at home, maybe you have just one car as a family. Resource management, the car is the resource. Who is using the car today? Who is using it at 12 or at 5? You have something to do at 3. You need to sync up with your other stakeholders that also have the need for the car. You as the husband need the car, the wife too needs the car. So stakeholder management, engagement. Who is going to use the car today? Negotiation. So you're already doing, in your day-to-day life, you're already doing business analysis. But you may not be doing it as part of your mainstream work or in a project environment. Even for the wife that is cooking the meals, I hear a lot of wives like, what are we going to eat today? They get fed up. They are not asking the husband, what do you want to eat? Right? It's again, they are eliciting requirements. What do you want to eat? You, my husband. So everybody is already doing business analysis, whether you know it or not, right? That's what we are saying. Then I was talking to somebody the other day, here talking about tech relevant short courses. Again, I'm not a fan of full-blown school, not after I've gone to so many ways of schooling and I keep learning. So I kind of have a disparity a little bit from what I call formal education and continuous learning. I'm an advocate of continuous learning. And I'm not saying don't go and do one academic program here or there. No. And I can tell you, I'm already thinking about doing a PhD. But that's just for my own personal reasons. It's not because I want to use it to foster my career. Not necessarily. Right? But what I'm saying that you need to have the propensity to unlearn, relearn, and continue to learn. A lot of us put in our resume, lifelong learner. I'm a lifelong learner. Anytime I see that, I ask whoever wrote it, when last did you learn something new? I'm not going to ask us here because a lot of people don't like me asking that. When last did you learn something new? You, that you're a lifelong learner, or has your life ended? Right? So take short, relevant short courses. Udemy, Coursera, there are courses for as low as $20. So don't tell me, oh, I don't have money. I've seen people that they actually spend more on training when they don't have a job. Because then they will now realize, or they will now believe that, oh, I need to have this certification so that I can get a job. But that's when you are now not in a job, when you don't even have the income. That's when you now realize, oh, I need to write that exam. Why not write it when you have a job now? Right? Be strategic. I'm not saying go and write all the certifications under the sun. And this is where you now need a mentor by your side. Right? Don't forget. This is MB Consult sponsored or hosted webinar. So these are the things we do to help you, one, create that strategic roadmap. We figure out from where you are right now to where you want to be. Right? When I told someone recently that I endeavor to write at least 1 or 2 certifications every year, and I've been doing that for at least a decade now. So you do the math. How many certifications do you think I have? Go and check my LinkedIn profile if you want to know. And that's not all anyway. Right? I didn't write all of them in one day. It's consistency, it's strategy, it's me knowing where I want to be, and I take full responsibility. Right? Once you've identified your role, that target role that you're looking for. I tell when I find out that when I ask people, what kind of job are you looking for? People are very quick to answer me. They will say, oh, I'm looking for a BA role. Or, oh, I'm looking for a data analyst role. Oh, I'm looking for a Salesforce role. No, they have not seen anybody that doesn't answer that question. Everybody feels like they know what role they want to do. And then I now ask the follow-up question. What skills do you need to excel in this role? And then there's a very, very tangible silence that follows that question. Nobody talks anymore. And I'm like, so how do you get to somewhere without knowing the way there? Oh, GPS, right? I agree with you, but we need a career GPS as well. Right? Does that make sense? If you don't have the career GPS, you won't get to where you want your career to be at. It's as simple as that. The GPS you are using now is a traffic GPS. You need a career GPS. And that's where a mentor comes in. Because most likely a mentor has walked that path and can give you strategies. What took the mentor maybe 5, 10, 15 years to achieve, hopefully the mentor can show you how to achieve this in half the time. If the mentor is sincere and willing to offer up that information. Right? I tell people that if I had this whole concept of mentorship and coaching that I'm doing now, if I had it like 15, 20 years ago, I dare to say that I would be in the 1% of top executives in tech today. Again, no regrets, no complaining, but I'm just saying that all I had were what I would call social mentors, as the people that just helped you get through life. And I thank God for them. But not somebody telling me, oh, Mike, no, don't study this, study that. Or no, do this, don't do that. No, I was just winging it most part of the way. And just trying my best to do my best every step of the way. But if I had a Michael Boyo in my corner 20, 15 years ago, I don't even think most of you would have, again, it's not arrogance. You may not even be able to access him in the first place. Right? So that's why when I do this, and with folks that are partnering alongside with me, it's just because we want to show people a better way to go about it. That's all. You know, and this is coming to my mind. I was talking to a protege, this have been over a year ago, that I had mentored to get her first professional job in Canada, coming from a minimum paying job into a professional role. The day she got the job offer, she called me, she was in tears. And when she told me the job offer, and I said, so what are we doing next? She said she's going to send it back for acceptance. And I said, no, who does that? I said, we need to negotiate. We negotiated, she got 10% extra. And at some point on the job, I now said, what's your plan? She now said, plan for what? I said, are you just going to sit at that job? Is there any plan for you to leave? And she was like, what do I mean? I said, does the job belong to your dad? Is it your dad's company? He said no. And I said, so what makes you think that they can't wake up one morning and tell you no services required? You need to have a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D. Oh, she now said she didn't understand that. Now she does. And I said, so start looking for another job. And she said, I said, yes. And then she started looking. Barely 2-3 months as she started looking, she got something else. Long story cut short, by the time she was going into the new job, which paid her more, she was literally being fired in the old one. I kid you not, true life story. So by the time she was leaving, she was literally, they were, what do you do? They were doing like staff reduction. They actually was about closing down her whole department, and they didn't tell her. They were going to inform everybody in an all hands session that they were going to have in the company headquarters. And so when she went for that conference, the chief executive told them that people are going to be laid off, but that they release the names after that conference. At the end of that conference, her line manager told her that their department was going to be impacted. So she was literally going to be fired. And they were just going to give her like 3 months, continue to pay her. If she wanted to leave, she could leave. If she doesn't leave, she needs to leave at the end of 3 months. But that was when the offer for the other job came up. And so she left. True life story. And I have dozens of stories like that. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because I've seen a lot of stuff. And all I'm doing here is to see how I can get people to do better, to get better. Don't make the same mistakes I made. Somebody said, experience is the best teacher. Sam Adeyemi, a prolific speaker, said that, yes, I agree, experience is the best teacher, but not necessarily my experience. You don't need to make the same mistakes because you want to learn from them. No, you can learn from the mistakes of others. That's a better way to learn. Don't you agree? Right. So let's get back on point here. So update your resume and LinkedIn. Again, these are all the strategies we use at MB Consults. If you join our mentorship program, a 90-day intensive mentorship and coaching program, we'll teach you strategies on how your resume will become that non-verbal tool for you to engender a verbal conversation. That's primarily what your resume does. Your resume should be able to speak on your behalf without saying a verbal word. So if you are here and you say you're applying for jobs, you're not getting any calls or what have you, something is wrong somewhere, right? We just need to look into it. And then lastly, that same girl, before she got that job, I told her, I said, when somebody pings you on LinkedIn, a recruiter or whatever, there are specific questions you want to ask. You even want to validate the legitimacy of the recruiter in the first place, because I don't waste time, right? And as you continue to use those strategies of asking the right question, you can easily fend off what I call rogue recruiters. I don't want somebody wasting my time, and I don't want to waste anybody's time. Again, these are all strategies that we teach at MB Consult. Now, as I wrap up, practice interview storytelling. I've been in too many interview prep sessions that you ask me a question, I have a story to tell you. This is an art, and you need to learn it. Beyond all the technical jargons, you need to be able to tell a good story around everything that you are saying across the interview table. Join communities and find a mentor. Again, MB Consult is the place you need to be. Apply smartly and persistently. Persistency is the word. Keep applying. But there's a smart way to do it. Again, these are strategies that we teach at MB Consult. Finally, let MB Consult help you. Are you ready to take the leap? You've got you covered, right? These are things that we do. Career clarity calls. If you're in that place where you think that you still need to understand exactly what you need to be doing, we have that career clarity call session. Resume LinkedIn optimization. These are bread and butter for us. Interview coaching. We have on-demand videos that you can subscribe to watch, well-curated interview preps that have landed folks jobs. And you can have live one as well. When you join that program, if you have an interview, then you would be responsible to prep you for that interview. So all that is embedded in the 90-day mentorship program. If you want to see what that looks like, you want to join the community, you can scan that QR code right now and join. And I believe that the links have also been shared in the chat. So feel free to connect with us. We've helped hundreds of professionals from non-tech backgrounds to pivot into rewarding tech careers. If you are ready to take the leap, or you just want to learn more, let's connect. The community is welcoming, supportive, you get personalized experience, and your next role will be closer than you think. So why not join us today? Connect with us on any of our contacts, and definitely somebody will be on hand to chat to you all. Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate you being here. It's another great time to spend with you folks on a Saturday. I appreciate you being here. Any questions?